The massive halls of the Galactic Senate buzzed with quiet conversations as representatives from 847 different species took their seats. Ambassador Lisa Rodriguez adjusted her formal uniform and checked her notes one final time. Today she would present humanity's latest contributions to the galactic community, and she felt confident about the reception. Captain Jake Morrison stood at attention near the human delegation area, his sharp eyes scanning the assembled aliens. Something felt wrong. In his 15 years of military service, he had learned to trust his instincts, and right now they were screaming danger. The Zephyrian delegation kept glancing at the humans with what looked like barely contained hostility. The crystalline, Kethmori representatives seemed unusually agitated, their bodies flickering with nervous energy. Dr. Helen Burke sat in the observer section, her tablet displaying classified research data that she hoped would never see the light of day. As Earth's leading xenobiologist, she understood alien psychology better than most humans, and what she was seeing in the Senate chambers today worried her deeply. Senator Vexithira of the Zephyrian Republic rose from his seat, his tall blue form commanding attention. His species had been one of humanity's strongest allies when Earth first joined the galactic community 37 years ago. Now his golden eyes held nothing but cold calculation as he looked toward the human delegation. Rodriguez began her presentation with enthusiasm. She spoke about the new medical treatments that had saved millions of lives across dozens of worlds, the revolutionary fusion technology that had ended energy shortages on 17 planets, the terraforming techniques that had turned barren rocks into garden worlds where multiple species could thrive together. The audience listened politely, but Morrison noticed something disturbing. Many species that had previously shown gratitude for human innovations now seemed indifferent or even hostile. The insectoid hive collective buzzed their disapproval at every mention of human technological advancement. The gas-breathing nebula dwellers made sounds that their translators rendered as contemptuous laughter. Burke's tablet chimed softly with an incoming message. She glanced down and felt her blood run cold. Her research assistant on Earth had detected unusual encrypted communications between several galactic governments. The messages were heavily coded, but the few fragments they had decoded mentioned human problem and final solution. As Rodriguez concluded her presentation, Senator Vexithara requested permission to address the assembly. The Senate Speaker, an ancient turtle-like being called Prime Counselor Tormath, granted the request with what seemed like eager anticipation. Vexithara's voice carried clearly through the chamber's translation systems. He spoke of human expansion across the galaxy, painting it as aggressive colonization rather than peaceful settlement. He mentioned human military capabilities, describing them as a growing threat to galactic peace. Most damaging of all, he presented what appeared to be evidence of human war crimes against civilian populations. Morrison's hands clenched into fists as he watched the fabricated evidence play on the chamber's massive screens. The videos showed human soldiers attacking unarmed aliens, but he recognized the scenes as clips from training simulations taken out of context. The audio recordings of human commanders planning genocidal campaigns were clearly artificial, created by advanced voice synthesis technology. Rodriguez shot to her feet, demanding the right to respond, but Prime Counselor Tormath ruled that the evidence spoke for itself. The Zephyrian senator continued his accusations, claiming that humanity's rapid technological development posed an existential threat to all other species. He argued that humans were fundamentally different from every other galactic species, driven by conquest and domination rather than peaceful cooperation. Burke's tablet buzzed again with another decoded fragment. This one made her stomach turn. The conspiracy against humanity had been planned for months, possibly years. Species that had publicly praised human contributions had been secretly meeting to plan Earth's expulsion from the galactic community. The debate that followed was a carefully orchestrated theater. Species after species rose to voice their concerns about human aggression and expansion. The few allies humanity still had were quickly shouted down or dismissed. Morrison realized with growing horror that this was not a spontaneous vote, but a predetermined conclusion. Admiral Peter Cross's face appeared on Morrison's secure communicator, his expression grim. The Admiral was broadcasting from Earth Defense Command, and his message was brief but terrifying. Long-range sensors had detected massive fleet movements throughout the galaxy. 12 separate armadas were already moving toward human colonies, their intentions clear. Rodriguez made one final desperate plea to the Assembly. She reminded them of the lives saved by human medicine, the worlds made habitable by human technology, the threats defeated by human military forces fighting alongside galactic peacekeepers. She spoke of the partnerships built over decades, the trust that had been established, the mutual benefits of cooperation. Her words fell on deaf ears. Prime Counselor Tormath called for the vote with what sounded suspiciously like satisfaction. The motion was simple and devastating. Earth would be expelled from the Galactic Senate. All human colonies beyond the Sol system would be seized and redistributed among other species. Humanity would be confined to their home system under permanent quarantine, cut off from galactic civilization forever. The voting began immediately. Morrison watched in stunned silence as species after species voted against humanity. Many had been recipients of human aid during natural disasters or conflicts. Others had signed trade agreements that had brought them prosperity beyond their wildest dreams. None of that mattered now. Burke worked frantically on her tablet, trying to send a warning to Earth before the Senate's security systems could block all human communications. She managed to transmit a brief message to the Defense Command before her access was terminated. The final tally appeared on the chamber's displays in letters that seemed to burn themselves into Morrison's memory. 623 votes for expulsion, 224 against. Humanity's fate was sealed by the very species they had tried to help and protect. As the vote concluded, Morrison felt his communicator vibrate with an incoming priority message from Admiral Cross. The text was brief but clear. The galactic fleets were already moving against human colonies. Evacuation protocols were being activated across all human settlements. Earth had perhaps 6 hours before the shooting started. Rodriguez stood in shocked silence as the Senate erupted in celebration around her. Fexithar's expression showed nothing but cold satisfaction as he watched the human delegation absorb the magnitude of their betrayal. The other conspirators made no effort to hide their relief that the human problem had finally been solved. Morrison grabbed Rodriguez's arm and whispered urgently in her ear. They needed to leave immediately. Their diplomatic immunity had just been revoked along with Earth's Senate membership. Within minutes, they would likely be arrested as enemy agents. As they hurried toward the exit, Burke caught up with them, her face pale with fear and anger. She had managed to decode one final message before her access was cut off. The conspiracy went deeper than anyone had imagined. This was not just about removing humanity from the Senate. This was about eliminating humans as a galactic power permanently. The 3 humans reached their shuttle just as Senate security forces arrived to detain them. Morrison gunned the engines and shot away from the station at maximum speed, racing toward Earth with news that would change everything. Behind them, the galaxy celebrated what they believed was the end of the human threat. They had no idea what they had just unleashed. The first galactic fleet to reach a human colony was commanded by Admiral Zefkol of the Zephyrian Navy. His massive dreadnought dropped out of hyperspace above New Denver, a thriving agricultural world that housed 2 million human colonists. Behind him came 49 additional warships, their weapons trained on the planet below. Colonel Ryan Walsh received the ultimatum while standing in the colony's command center. The message was simple and arrogant. Surrender immediately and prepare for relocation to designated containment areas. Resist and face complete annihilation. The aliens gave him exactly 1 hour to decide. Walsh looked at his staff officers, men and women who had served with him through 3 previous conflicts. His communications officer, Lieutenant Amy Johnson, waited for orders with her hand hovering over the colony's emergency broadcast system. His security chief, Major Kate Sullivan, had already begun implementing defensive protocols that the aliens knew nothing about. The colonel's response surprised everyone who heard it, including his own people. He activated the colony-wide communication system and spoke directly to every human on New Denver. He told them about the Senate vote and the demand for surrender. Then he gave them a choice that no other species in galactic history had ever offered their people. They could surrender and accept whatever fate the aliens had planned for them. Or they could choose to deny their enemies the prize they sought, even if it meant death. The vote was held immediately through the colony's electronic systems. The result was overwhelming. 97% of the colonists chose death over surrender. Admiral Zefkol waited confidently for the human response. In his experience, all species eventually submitted when faced with overwhelming force. Survival instinct was universal among intelligent life. The humans would see reason and surrender peacefully, just like every other species he had conquered. The response came exactly 1 hour later, broadcast on all frequencies so the entire galactic fleet could hear it. Colonel Walsh's voice was calm and steady as he delivered humanity's answer to their ultimatum. New Denver would not surrender. The colonists had voted to activate Protocol 7, a contingency plan that had been built into every human settlement since Earth joined the galactic community. If they could not remain free, they would ensure their enemies gained nothing from their conquest. Admiral Zefkol ordered his ships to open fire, expecting the humans to panic and reconsider once they saw the destruction raining down on their cities. Instead, something happened that would haunt galactic military commanders for generations to come. Every fusion reactor on New Denver overloaded simultaneously. Every industrial facility detonated in a carefully coordinated chain reaction. The orbital defense platforms turned their weapons on the planet's surface, adding to the destruction. In less than 10 minutes, New Denver transformed from a garden world into a raging inferno that would burn for months. The explosion was so massive that 3 Zephyrian dreadnoughts were caught in the blast radius and destroyed. Thousands of alien crew members died alongside the human colonists they had come to conquer. Admiral Zefkol watched in horror as an entire world chose self-destruction rather than surrender. Similar scenes played out across 17 other human colonies. Captain Amy Johnson led a desperate evacuation mission on the mining world of Franklin's Hope while simultaneously preparing the planet's destruction. She managed to save 30,000 civilians before activating the orbital demolition charges that turned the planet's crust into molten slag. General Kate Sullivan coordinated the defense of the agricultural world harmony, knowing from the beginning that victory was impossible. Instead of trying to win, she focused on making the alien conquest as costly as possible. By the time Harmony fell, the attacking fleet had lost 60% of its ships to booby traps and suicide attacks. Dr. Helen Burke, now working from a secret facility on Earth, activated humanity's most devastating weapon. For decades, humans had been sharing their technology freely with galactic civilization. Medical equipment, fusion reactors, terraforming devices, communication systems, and countless other innovations had spread throughout known space. What the aliens did not know was that every piece of human technology contained hidden programming that could be activated remotely with a single command transmitted from Earth. All human-derived technology across the galaxy began to malfunction. Medical facilities treating millions of patients suddenly lost power. Fusion reactors providing energy to entire worlds shut down, without warning. Terraforming equipment maintaining atmospheric processors on dozens of planets stopped working. Communication networks that connected interstellar governments went silent. The galactic economy, which had become dependent on human innovations over the past 37 years, collapsed within hours. Worlds that had been transformed into paradise through human terraforming technology began reverting to their original hostile environments. Space stations powered by human fusion technology drifted helplessly as their life support systems failed. Senator Vexithara watched from his flagship. As reports poured in from across the galaxy, the humans had not simply refused to surrender. They had turned their own contributions to galactic civilization into weapons of mass destruction. Billions of aliens found themselves stranded without power, medicine, or breathable air. Admiral Peter Cross addressed the galaxy from Earth Defense Command, his message broadcast through hijacked communication networks that the aliens could not shut down. His words were calm but carried a threat that chilled every being who heard them. Humanity had accepted the Galactic Declaration of War. They understood that their former allies had chosen to see them as enemies rather than partners. But the galaxy needed to understand something fundamental about human nature. Humans did not fight like other species. They did not surrender when faced with superior numbers. They did not negotiate from positions of weakness. The general's message continued with a promise that would reshape galactic warfare forever. If the aliens wanted to destroy humanity, they would discover that humans were willing to burn down the entire galaxy rather than submit to conquest. Every world, every space station, every fleet that moved against human interests would pay a price beyond anything they could imagine. Captain Nicole Davis led a team of human special operations soldiers who had been embedded in galactic society for years. They emerged from deep cover across hundreds of worlds, revealing that humanity had been preparing for this possibility since the day they joined the galactic community. These sleeper agents began a campaign of sabotage and assassination that paralyzed galactic governments. Military commanders found their fleets crippled by mysterious equipment failures. Political leaders discovered that their most trusted advisors were human operatives who knew every secret and weakness of their governments. Dr. Sam Chen revealed the existence of weapons specifically designed to exploit the unique vulnerabilities of each alien species. Sonic bombs that could shatter the crystalline bodies of the Kethmori. Biological agents that disrupted the hive-mind connections of the collective species. Psychological warfare techniques that could drive the normally rational Zephyrians to madness. The galaxy began to understand that humanity had been studying them far more carefully than anyone had realized. Every diplomatic meeting, every cultural exchange, every joint military exercise had been an opportunity for humans to learn how to destroy their supposed allies. Commander Tony Mitchell coordinated the human response from a mobile command ship that seemed to appear and disappear at will. His forces struck at the infrastructure that held galactic civilization together. Trade routes were mined and blockaded. Communication relays were destroyed or hijacked. Resource distribution networks were systematically dismantled. The aliens discovered that humans did not fight to conquer territory or resources. They fought to ensure that their enemies could not function as a civilization. Every engagement with human forces resulted in devastating losses for both sides, but humans seemed willing to accept any cost to deny their enemies victory. Prime Counselor Tormath attempted to open communication channels with Earth, hoping to negotiate some kind of ceasefire. The response came from Ambassador Lisa Rodriguez, now operating from a hidden base somewhere in human space. Her message was brief and non-negotiable. The galaxy had voted to destroy humanity, and humans had accepted that declaration of war. There would be no negotiation, no compromise, and no mercy until every being who had voted against Earth faced the consequences of their decision. The galaxy had wanted to see what humans were capable of when pushed to the edge of extinction. Now they were learning that the answer was more terrifying than anything they could have imagined. Humanity would rather rule over ashes than serve as slaves. The war that the galactic powers thought would last mere days had stretched into weeks, and their confidence was crumbling. Commander Tony Mitchell stood in the briefing room of his stealth ship, studying holographic displays that showed the systematic collapse of galactic civilization. His team of special operations soldiers had exceeded every expectation, but their success was only the beginning of humanity's response. Dr. Sam Chen worked in a laboratory that officially did not exist, designing weapons that violated every galactic convention of warfare. Unlike other species, humans had no qualms about creating tools specifically meant to cause maximum suffering to their enemies. The sonic disruptors that turned Kethmori crystal bodies into vibrating fragments, the neural viruses that severed collective drones from their hive mind, leaving them screaming in isolation, the fear toxins that transformed rational Zephyrians into paranoid madmen who attacked their own allies. Captain Nicole Davis had infiltrated the highest levels of galactic government, and her intelligence network was providing information that allowed humans to stay 3 steps ahead of every alien military strategy. She learned that Senator Vexathera was planning a secret meeting with military commanders from 12 different species, hoping to coordinate a massive assault on the Sol system. Davis arrived at the meeting ahead of the senator, having eliminated his security detail and replaced them with human operatives. When Vexathera entered the conference room, he found himself facing not his military allies but a single human woman who knew every detail of his conspiracy against Earth. The conversation was brief and educational. Davis played recordings of the senator's private communications, revealing his role in fabricating evidence against humanity. She showed him detailed files on his personal corruption, his illegal business dealings, and his secret communications with enemies of his own government. Then she gave him a choice. He could return to his homeworld and confess his crimes publicly, accepting whatever punishment his own people deemed appropriate. Or she could release the evidence herself, along with proof that he had been selling military secrets to the collective for personal profit. Either way, his political career was over, but he could choose whether to die as a confessed traitor or an exposed spy. Admiral Peter Cross implemented what became known as the Human Doctrine throughout all of Earth's remaining military forces. The principle was simple and terrifying. If humans could not win a conflict, they would ensure that nobody else could either. Every battle became a choice between total victory and mutual annihilation. The doctrine was first tested when a combined fleet of over 300 alien warships surrounded the human research station at Alpha Centauri. The station commander, Captain Ryan Walsh, received the standard surrender ultimatum and responded with an offer that stunned the alien fleet. Walsh informed them that Alpha Centauri station was equipped with an experimental weapon that could destabilize the nearby star, triggering a supernova that would sterilize the entire system. The aliens could withdraw immediately, or they could witness the first deliberate stellar destruction in galactic history. He gave them exactly 10 minutes to decide. The alien fleet commanders initially dismissed the threat as a bluff. No species had ever developed technology capable of weaponizing stellar physics. No rational civilization would deliberately destroy an entire star system, including their own people. They were about to learn that humans were neither technologically limited nor entirely rational. Captain Walsh activated the weapon with 3 minutes remaining on his ultimatum. The alien fleet sensors detected massive gravitational distortions as the star's core began an accelerated fusion cascade. Faced with a choice between retreat and annihilation, the aliens fled the system just as Alpha Centauri exploded in a burst of energy that would be visible from dozens of nearby worlds. Dr. Rachel Green led the team responsible for developing humanity's most devastating capability. Working from classified facilities hidden throughout human space, her scientists had created weapons that could remotely trigger stellar collapse in any system where humans had ever established a presence. The galaxy suddenly realized that over the past 37 years, humans had gained access to nearly every inhabited system in known space. General Kate Sullivan coordinated the deployment of these stellar weapons, creating a threat matrix that encompassed hundreds of worlds. The message to the galaxy was clear. If Earth fell, automated systems would begin destroying stars throughout galactic space. Entire sectors would become uninhabitable dark zones where no life could survive for millions of years. Senator Maria Lopez, who had served as Earth's secondary ambassador before the war began, now operated from a mobile diplomatic platform that broadcast continuous propaganda throughout galactic space. Her messages were reaching populations on hundreds of worlds, revealing the truth about how their governments had manipulated them into supporting a war against humanity. Lopez played recordings of the secret meetings where galactic leaders had planned Earth's destruction. She showed evidence of the fabricated war crimes that had been used to justify the vote against humanity. Most damaging of all, she revealed how the conspiracy against Earth had been driven by fear of human innovation rather than any actual threat to galactic peace. Public opinion across many worlds began to shift as alien populations realized they had been deceived into supporting a war that was destroying their own civilization. Protests erupted on Zephyrian worlds as citizens demanded accountability from their leaders. Kethmori crystal cities resonated with harmonics of dissent as their populations questioned the war's necessity. Commander Mitchell's intelligence operatives reported that several species were beginning to fragment internally. The collective's hive mind was experiencing unprecedented discord, as individual drones began questioning the consensus that had supported the war. The gas-breathing nebula dwellers found their atmospheric processors failing without human maintenance, leading to civil unrest in their cloud cities. Admiral Chris Walker commanded Earth's most advanced fleet, ships equipped with technology that seemed to violate fundamental laws of physics. His vessels could manipulate space-time itself, appearing and disappearing at will throughout galactic space. Their weapons could turn enemy ships inside out, or strand them in pocket dimensions where time moved at different rates. The galactic military commanders who faced Walker's fleet discovered that humans had been holding back their most advanced capabilities for decades. The technology they had shared with galactic civilization was primitive compared to what they had developed in secret. Human ships moved through dimensions that other species could not detect, struck from directions that should not have existed, and employed weapons that turned the fundamental forces of the universe against their targets. Dr. Kevin Park worked with Walker to implement a strategy of psychological warfare that was breaking the will of entire species to continue fighting. Human forces did not simply destroy enemy ships. They captured crews and used advanced medical technology to keep them alive, while demonstrating the full range of human capabilities for inflicting suffering. These prisoners were then returned to their own forces with detailed knowledge of what humans could do to those who opposed them. The psychological impact was devastating. Alien military units began surrendering rather than face capture by human forces. Prime Counselor Tormath attempted to organize a peace conference, hoping to negotiate an end to a war that was rapidly spinning beyond anyone's control. The response came from Colonel Ryan Walsh, now serving as humanity's chief military spokesman. Walsh's message was broadcast simultaneously to every inhabited world in the galaxy. Humanity would accept only one form of negotiation: complete and unconditional surrender by every government that had voted against Earth, public trials for war crimes committed against human civilians, reparations for the destruction of human colonies, and the establishment of human authority over all aspects of galactic government. The alternative was simple. Human forces would begin the systematic destruction of alien civilizations, starting with the homeworlds of the species that had initiated the war against Earth. The galaxy had 72 hours to choose between surrender and annihilation. The ultimatum spread throughout galactic space. It became clear that humanity's response to betrayal had exceeded every prediction. They were not fighting to regain their place in galactic society. They were fighting to remake that society entirely, with humans as the supreme authority over all other species. The galaxy faced a choice that no civilization had ever confronted before: submit to human rule or face extinction at the hands of a species that had proven willing to destroy everything rather than accept defeat. The greatest fleet in galactic history assembled at the edge of the Sol system, stretching across millions of kilometers of space. Admiral Chris Walker watched the alien armada through the sensors of his flagship, counting over 10,000 warships from 200 different species. Every major galactic power had contributed vessels to this final assault on humanity, believing that sheer numbers would overcome human technological advantages. Dr. Rachel Green worked frantically in the deepest levels of Earth Defense Command, monitoring the automated systems that could trigger stellar destruction across the galaxy. Her screens showed hundreds of stars throughout galactic space, each one equipped with human devices that could induce supernova collapse. If Earth fell, the galaxy would learn what total war truly meant. President Jack Taylor addressed the people of Earth from the Capitol, his words broadcast to every human settlement in the Sol system. He spoke of the choice their species faced. They could surrender and accept whatever fate the aliens planned for them, or they could make a stand that would be remembered for as long as intelligent life existed in the galaxy. The vote was unanimous. Every human settlement, every space station, every ship in the Sol system chose to fight rather than submit. If humanity was to be destroyed, they would take as much of galactic civilization with them as possible. The concept of proportional response had never existed in human military doctrine, and it would not begin now. Admiral Walker activated Earth's primary defense system, revealing technology that made human capabilities seem almost supernatural. Massive generators hidden throughout the Sol system began manipulating space-time itself, creating gravitational anomalies that could tear apart entire fleets. The alien commanders watched in horror as the fundamental forces of physics became weapons in human hands. The first wave of the galactic assault consisted of 500 Zephyrian dreadnoughts, ships that had conquered dozens of worlds in previous conflicts. They entered the Sol system with confidence, their weapons charged and their crews prepared for the final victory over humanity. None of them emerged from the gravitational maze that Earth's defenders had created around their homeworld. Senator Maria Lopez broadcast continuously throughout the galaxy, revealing new evidence of the conspiracy that had led to this war. Her intelligence network had uncovered communications between galactic leaders dating back years before the Senate vote, showing how they had planned to eliminate humanity as a potential rival to their power. The revelations were devastating to alien morale. Populations across the galaxy learned that their governments had lied about human aggression, fabricated evidence of war crimes, and manipulated them into supporting a war of extermination against their former allies. Protests erupted on hundreds of worlds as alien citizens demanded answers from their leaders. Dr. Kevin Park coordinated the defense of Earth's orbital installations, using weapons that seemed to violate several known laws of physics. Human defensive platforms fired projectiles that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, making them impossible to intercept or deflect. Enemy ships found themselves under attack from directions that should not have existed in normal spacetime. Commander Tony Mitchell led a desperate mission behind enemy lines, infiltrating the Galactic Fleet's command structure and spreading chaos through their communications networks. His team of special operations soldiers had learned to exploit every weakness in alien psychology, turning the massive fleet into a collection of paranoid, suspicious crews who no longer trusted their own allies. The second wave of the galactic assault included the crystalline battlespheres of the Kethmori, structures the size of small moons that could level entire planets with their harmonic weapons. Admiral Walker met them with humanity's most advanced vessels, ships that could phase in and out of normal spacetime at will. The battle that followed redefined everything the galaxy thought it knew about warfare. Human ships appeared inside the Kethmori battlespheres, deploying sonic weapons that turned the aliens' crystalline bodies into fragments. The massive structures collapsed from within, their harmonic fields disrupted by frequencies that resonated at dimensions beyond normal perception. Captain Nicole Davis continued her campaign of psychological warfare, broadcasting the final confessions of captured alien leaders throughout galactic space. Senator Vexit Thera's admission of his role in fabricating evidence against humanity was particularly damaging, as it revealed the extent to which the galactic powers had been willing to lie to justify their actions. General Kate Sullivan implemented the final phase of human defensive strategy, activating weapons that could manipulate stellar physics on a galactic scale. The threat was no longer limited to individual star systems. Human technology could now trigger chain reactions that would darken entire sectors of the galaxy, creating vast dead zones where no life could survive. The third wave of the alien assault consisted of the collective's bioships, living vessels, that could adapt to any weapon used against them. They swarmed toward Earth in formations that resembled massive organisms, their hulls shifting and changing to counter human defenses. They encountered something they could not adapt to quickly. Enough. Dr. Sam Chen had developed viral weapons specifically designed to attack the biological systems of collective ships. These viruses did not simply destroy their targets. They reprogrammed them, turning the bioships against their own fleet and creating chaos in the alien formations. The collective's greatest strength became their most devastating weakness as their own vessels turned into uncontrolled weapons. Admiral Susan Wright commanded Earth's mobile defense platforms, structures that could teleport instantly across the Sol system and deploy weapons from multiple dimensional angles. Her forces demonstrated that humans had learned to fight in ways that other species could not comprehend or counter. The galactic fleet found itself trapped in a battle where the rules of physics seemed to change constantly. Human weapons struck from impossible angles, moved through solid matter without resistance, and inflicted damage that propagated backward through time to destroy targets before they were even fired upon. President Taylor received a desperate communication from Prime Counselor Tormath, begging for a ceasefire and offering to negotiate humanity's terms for ending the war. The response was swift and uncompromising. Humanity would accept nothing less than complete surrender by every government that had participated in the assault on Earth. Dr. Rachel Green activated the final warning system, demonstrating humanity's capability to destroy inhabited star systems across the galaxy. A single uninhabited system near the galactic core was selected for demonstration purposes. The human device triggered a supernova that was visible from thousands of light years away, its destruction serving as a promise of what would happen to any world that continued to resist human authority. The psychological impact of witnessing deliberate stellar destruction broke the will of the remaining galactic forces. Entire fleets began surrendering rather than face the possibility of having their homeworlds destroyed by weapons that treated stars themselves as ammunition. Colonel Ryan Walsh delivered humanity's final ultimatum to the galaxy. All remaining military forces would surrender immediately and submit to human authority. All governments that had voted against Earth would be dissolved and replaced by human administrators. All populations that had supported the war would be relocated to designated worlds under human supervision. The alternative was the systematic destruction of galactic civilization, starting with the homeworlds of the species that had initiated the conflict against humanity. The galaxy had exactly 72 hours to choose between submission and extinction. As the ultimatum spread throughout galactic space, it became clear that humanity's response to betrayal had exceeded every possible prediction. They were not seeking revenge or reparations. They were demanding the complete restructuring of galactic society under human leadership. The war that was supposed to eliminate humanity as a threat had instead elevated them to the position of galactic overlords. The species that had voted to confine humans to their home system now faced the prospect of being confined to whatever worlds humans deemed appropriate for their continued existence. The galaxy had learned too late that humans possessed something no other species had ever encountered: the absolute refusal to accept defeat, even if victory required the destruction of everything they claimed to be fighting to protect. The surrender came exactly 68 hours after humanity's final ultimatum, transmitted simultaneously from every remaining galactic government to Earth Defense Command. Admiral Chris Walker stood in the communications center, watching as species after species formally submitted to human authority. The war that was supposed to last months had ended in complete human victory after just 3 weeks of fighting. President Jack Taylor addressed the galaxy from the rebuilt Senate chambers on Earth, the massive hall now serving as the headquarters of humanity's new galactic government. Representatives from surviving alien governments sat in designated areas, their status changed from equals to subjects awaiting judgment from their human overlords. The cost of the conflict was staggering even by galactic standards. Entire species had been driven to extinction during the fighting. The Keth Mori crystal cities lay in fragments across dozens of worlds. The collective's hive mind had been permanently severed, leaving billions of drones scattered and isolated throughout their former territory. Hundreds of worlds bore the scars of human weapons that had turned their surfaces into uninhabitable wastelands. Dr. Rachel Green supervised the shutdown of humanity's stellar destruction network, ensuring that the weapons remained functional but dormant. The threat of induced supernovas would continue to enforce human authority across the galaxy, a permanent reminder of what resistance would cost. Admiral Susan Wright began implementing the new military doctrine that would govern galactic peace. Human fleets would patrol every sector, monitoring all interspecies communications and intervening immediately in any conflict that threatened the stability of the new order. The concept of independent military forces among alien species was abolished permanently. The trials began within days of the surrender, held in the same Senate chambers where the vote against Earth had taken place. Senator Vexathera was the first to face judgment, his crimes against humanity detailed in broadcasts that reached every inhabited world in the galaxy. The evidence of his conspiracy was overwhelming, documented in his own communications and confirmed by dozens of co-conspirators seeking reduced sentences. Captain Nicole Davis served as the chief prosecutor, presenting case after case of deliberate deception and war crimes committed by galactic leaders. The fabricated evidence against humanity, the the secret meetings to plan Earth's destruction, the conspiracy to eliminate human colonies, all of it was laid bare before the watching galaxy. Prime Counselor Tormath attempted to claim ignorance of the conspiracy, arguing that he had been manipulated by more aggressive species into supporting the vote against Earth. Commander Tony Mitchell presented recordings of the counselor's private communications, showing his enthusiastic participation in planning humanity's extermination. The ancient being's reputation for wisdom and neutrality was destroyed in hours of testimony. The sentences were swift and absolute. Senator Vexthera and his primary co-conspirators were exiled to a barren world at the edge of galactic space, where they would spend their remaining years watching their homeworlds being slowly terraformed for human colonization. Their populations would be relocated to less desirable planets, serving as a permanent reminder of the cost of betraying humanity. Dr. Kevin Park led the reconstruction effort that would reshape galactic civilization according to human principles. The old system of consensus-based government was abolished, replaced by a structure that prioritized efficiency and results over endless debate. Species that embraced human values of innovation and individual achievement found themselves prospering. Under the new order, General Kate Sullivan established the new legal framework that would govern interspecies relations. The concept of species-based rights was eliminated, replaced by individual protections that applied equally to all sentient beings. Discrimination based on species origin became a capital crime, punishable by exile or worse. The economic reconstruction was equally dramatic. Senator Maria Lopez, now serving as human governor of galactic commerce, implemented trade policies that rewarded productivity and innovation while punishing the corruption that had characterized the old system. Worlds that had prospered through political connections found themselves struggling, while those that contributed genuine value to galactic society began to thrive. Colonel Ryan Walsh oversaw the integration of surviving alien military forces into the new Human Defense Corps. Former enemy officers who demonstrated loyalty to the new order were given opportunities to serve, while those who showed continued resistance simply disappeared during routine transfers. The technological revolution that followed human victory was unprecedented in galactic history. Dr. Sam Chen's research teams began sharing previously classified human innovations, but only with species that had proven their loyalty to the new government. Fusion technology advanced beyond anything the galaxy had seen. Medical capabilities expanded to eliminate diseases that had plagued alien populations for millennia. Terraforming techniques created garden worlds where none had existed before. President Taylor's administration implemented policies that would prevent any future conspiracy against human authority. All interspecies communications were monitored by human intelligence services. All government positions above local level required human approval. All military research was subject to human oversight and control. The resistance movements that emerged in the first months after surrender were dealt with swiftly and publicly. Entire populations that supported anti-human activities found themselves relocated to harsh frontier worlds where survival required total focus on basic necessities. The message was clear. Cooperation with human authority brought prosperity, while resistance brought suffering. Admiral Walker established the new galactic capital on Earth, with regional administrative centers on former alien homeworlds. The symbolism was intentional and powerful. The species that had voted to confine humanity to their home system now found their own world serving as outposts of human authority. Dr. Green's research into galactic psychology revealed why the old system had failed so completely. Most alien species approached conflict with the assumption that survival was the highest priority, making them willing to surrender when faced with superior force. Humans alone seemed to possess the willingness to choose death over defeat, making them uniquely suited to impose their will on other species. Captain Davis continued her intelligence operations, now focused on preventing the emergence of any new threats to human dominance. Her network of agents monitored every aspect of alien society, ensuring that no conspiracy against human authority could develop undetected. The new educational system implemented throughout galactic space emphasized human achievements and values, Alien children learned about the war as a cautionary tale about the consequences of challenging human authority. History was rewritten to emphasize humanity's contributions to galactic civilization, while downplaying the achievements of other species. Ambassador Lisa Rodriguez, now serving as Supreme Governor of the Galactic Union, delivered the final address to mark the first anniversary of human victory. She spoke from the rebuilt Senate chambers. Her words transmitted to every inhabited world in human space. The galaxy had learned that strength was not measured in numbers or resources, but in the willingness to use whatever means necessary to achieve victory. Humanity had proven that determination and innovation could overcome any advantage in raw power. The old order of cautious consensus and careful diplomacy had been replaced by human values of decisive action and absolute commitment. The species that had voted against Earth discovered that they had not simply lost a war, they had lost their entire way of life, replaced by something far more dynamic and successful than anything they had previously imagined. The galaxy now operated according to human principles, and those principles had created prosperity and stability that the old system had never achieved. Rodriguez concluded her address with a promise that would define galactic civilization for generations to come. Humanity would continue to lead the galaxy toward greater achievements, but any species that threatened that progress would face the full weight of human determination. The vote against Earth had been settled permanently, and the price had been paid in full. The new order was not just political or military. It was philosophical. The galaxy had learned that there were species willing to destroy everything rather than accept defeat. Now they lived under the authority of that species, and they had discovered that human leadership brought benefits they had never experienced under their own governments. The war was over, but its lessons would echo through galactic civilization forever. Humanity had proven that they deserved to rule not through conquest, but through their unique ability to succeed where other species had failed. The galaxy was stronger under human authority than it had ever been under the old system of compromise and consensus.